is I'm a Catholic, and that's an important thing to me, is my spirituality, but it's not an important thing for other people, right? Like I'm not like a proselytizer. I'm sure much to the chagrin of my priest. I don't go out telling people they should be this or that. I just try to figure out how I can do it for myself. And I fall back on that in terms of the necessity of helping people and to be ethical in our approach. I'm a distinguished fellow. That's the first time anyone's called me that at Catholic University, their Sioka Center for Principled Entrepreneurship. And that's important to me to reflect those values as much as I can. But the reason I mention is not to talk about my own spirituality, but to say that I think that in Catholicism, there's a huge sort of, it's like there's recognition that you will fail, you know. And this is something quite personal. Again, my grandmother, who I already admitted was a badass, we would do every year, we would do the Stations of the Cross at the Franciscan monastery in DC. And when we get to that point where Jesus fell for the third time, my grandfather usually led, and he was an academic, so he'd go into these long academic explanations of how Jesus was both a man and God, and it was like you were getting a lecture from a professor. And then when he passed away, my grandmother took over, and she had a much more direct way of speaking about things. And so when we got to the time that Jesus fell for the third time, she just said, "Sometimes we are all abject failures." And that was it. That was all she said. There was no, and blah, blah, blah. And it just like punched me in my chest. And it's something that I've realized a lot, both through my spirituality, my family, and real life, is sometimes you just fail. I guess I've just been lucky my whole life, like every time something bad happens, and lots of bad things have happened, there's always a way to carry on and even thrive. Maybe that's just unique to my privilege or myself or my personality, and definitely has, is rooted in faith. But power comes and power goes. It's not what people do on a daily basis. Obviously it does affect our daily lives, so I'm not trying to like say it's not, politics aren't important, but for the most part it doesn't really touch me, in the sense that like that's not fair. It does touch me. I guess what I'm trying to say is that like having a drink is not generally dependent on power, and it's something that everybody can do. I think that it's not really that important. We hand over this power to those in politics and government and religion and all of this stuff, but in the end it was always ours. And so I guess in a way that we have to reclaim that on a daily basis. And some of that is our rituals that we choose, the time we spend with our family, our friends, sort of politics of the first person. And so I think that's really important.